How's it going, boys? We're back at it again. I just finished streaming, so forgive me for my voice being a little bit gone. Yeah, I just streamed like 8 hours straight, but I wanted to go ahead and record the newest build that we've been working on. This one is called the Slapshot, and the reason why it's called that is because we're gonna be using blunderbuss and the flail. For those of you that don't know, the Flail is going to be an incredible powerhouse weapon coming into Season 9, especially if utilized without a shield or without a life staff. So if you use it without a shield, it's going to provide you with 15% more damage. And if you use it without a life staff, it's going to give you a 30% increase healing. Meaning that the Flail already deals a pretty good amount of damage, so Season 9 is going to be even better. And I cannot believe that they just decided to buff the Flail to maybe increase the popularity of it. But oh boy, is it going to be an incredible powerhouse. And the amounts of builds that we can create with the Flail with, you know, no shield, it's actually pretty big. It's pretty significant. And since it's going to be doing a pretty explosive damage, you're going to see this build coming up with popularity. It's already being incredibly popular on the stream, because daily every single people coming to the stream asking about the build. And the previous video that we released had a little bit about, you know, some of the clips with the Flail. But without making this intro any longer, let's go ahead and jump into it. All right, so for the gear, we're going to be using this. So on the helmet right now, we are using, let me remove that. On the helmet, we're going to be using Shuriken Heals, Mending Vortex, and Refreshing. On the chest piece, we have Shuriken Heal, Refreshing, and Vital Synergy. On the glove, we have Hasted Vigor, Shuriken Heal, and Refreshing. On the pants, we're using the Attuned Leather Pants with Refreshing and Shuriken Energy. As you guys can see, we're going for a 4 Refreshing because this is a ability based build, right? So we want those 4 refreshings in there. And then on the boots, we went for Powerful Eruption, Shuriken Heal, and Health. Health, not ideal, you know, probably you can slap something in there, but having the Reconnaissance Officer boots filling in, that makes it relatively a cheap build, like an easy to acquire build. But if you have the money and you want to craft your own 725 boots, you can go with Powerful Eruption, Shuriken Heal, in like either hardcore parkour or mortal life steal, or honestly whatever the hell you want to put in there, you can go for it. All right, for the weapons, we're going to be using my crafted and favorite blunderbuss, which has Play Crit, Flame Attunement, and Exhausted Net Shot. As you guys know, we don't have anti-heal anywhere because we're not gonna be using splitting grenades. We can, but we're not using it for this build, but we could, right? Look, if you want, you can slap like instead of Hasted Vigor here, you can put like Splitting Grenade and then put the Hasted Vigor instead of health down here for the boots. But this build will be showcased with Blast Shot instead of the grenade. But like I said, you can play with the grenades if you want to, okay? Then on the Flail, we're going to be utilizing Odo with a penetrating gem in it, and that's what we're gonna put it, what we're gonna put in the Odo, right? We're gonna put in the gem socket so we can put the turquoise, which essentially is 12% rain always. And the good thing about Odo is that it deals that 20% increase more damage to stun or knock down enemies. Since we're gonna be playing with a Blast Shot, that means that we're going to have the Blast Shots to knock down the enemy, and we're also gonna have the Trip to knock down the enemies. For the hard runes, honestly, you can use whatever you want, whatever you feel the most comfortable with. You can play with Detonate, you can play with Stormform, you can play with Dark Ascent, you can play with Blast Shot, you can play with whatever you want. I'm gonna leave that one up to you. It's 100% your choice. For the amulet, I'm using Ankh with Shuriken Empower because, well, you know, the 21% empower that we gain from Ankh is incredibly good for both the Flail and the blunderbuss, because the Flail and the blunderbuss, they don't have that much empowerment built into their build, right? The Flail has a little bit with like the spinning ability, but other than that, it's not that much. On the ring, we're gonna go for Arcane Damage, Healing Breeze, and Hardy. You guys know that we're Healing Breeze Enjoyer because we're gonna be proccing Healing Breeze with a lot of things, right? We're gonna be proccing Healing Breeze with Healthy Toast. We're gonna be proccing Healing Breeze with Shuriken Heal, and we're also going to be proccing Healing Breeze with Mending Vortex, and we're also gonna be proccing Healing Breeze with our Arcane Eruption ability, which I'm gonna show you in a little bit once I go into the skill tree. For the gem on the blunderbuss, I'm using the Augmented Empower, which is the one that turns 50% of my damage into Arcane. And also it makes me do arcane damage over time. The reason why we win arcane is because, well, as you guys know, the flail deals arcane damage. Not all of the abilities, but a big chunk of the arcane, it's a big chunk of the flail is actually arcane damage. And then on the gear we went with a full, you know, opal, increasing our arcane damage by 2%, arcane damage 2%, for a grand total of 10%, and then having arcane damage on the ring. And that is for the gear. For the skill trees, it's gonna be very simple. We're gonna go for 200 constitution. We're gonna go for 50 focus, so we increase that self-heal, and also we get that a little bit of cooldown reduction. On the intelligence, in my case, I have an intelligence blunderbuss, so I am forced to play with 50 intelligence. And unfortunately, you know, I have an extra 8 points because, again, the blunderbuss gives me 42. And I'm also using the attuned leather pants, which it puts me at 58, but it's not that bad because 25 stamina, I mean 25 intelligence gives me 5% increase critical damage, and 50 intelligence gives me 5% increased base damage to target that inflicted by the damage over time. Playing with the blunderbuss with the damage over time gem and splitting grenade and net shot, and also playing with the flail, that means that the enemy is going to have a damage over time on them basically pretty much the entirety of the fight. So putting 50 points into intelligence is actually not that bad. Then we're going to put 25 points into dexterity because having that extra 5% crit, it does help a lot proccing, you know, that play crits, and just critting in general is always good. And since we're using it to the pants, all we have to do is put 10 points into dexterity to get that amazing 5% crit. And then the remaining of the point, we're just gonna go ahead and dump it all into strength. Just put as much as you want because that's gonna buff both the flail and the blunderbuss. That pretty much does it for the attributes. Now let's go ahead and jump into the skill tree. This is how it's gonna look for the blunderbuss. You know, pretty staple build for the blunderbuss if you guys have been following my blunderbuss builds. And this is how it's gonna be looking for the flail. As you guys notice, we are playing with arcane vortex instead of arcane smite, and the reason behind it is arcane smite without a round shield, it does not do that much damage because the round shield is what boosts this damage by 20%. And also remember, we're playing without a shield, so there's no point in it's like, Trick, then put on a shield, you get more perks and you get damage with that. Yeah, but you know, that's all builds. We're talking about brand new flail right now, all right? So we're not playing with arcane smite, but you could if you wanted to. You 100% can do it, and then you just ditch arcane vortex and you go for smite. Is that something that you feel more comfortable with? But just know that arcane vortex deals way more damage than smite, and on top of that is just amazing because arcane vortex will cleanse you from any, you know, debuff that you have on top of, not any debuff, but it will cleanse you a lot. You know, it will give you CC immunity for a certain duration as well. It can root the enemy, it can give allies movement and speed, it can heal you and your allies. Did I say that it roots the enemy? It's just amazing. It's just an incredible ability that we're going to be utilizing it every time that we get hit by something that is like a lockdown. It says all allies within 3 meters of a player during the arcane vortex, including ourselves, are cleansed of crowd control status effect, root, stuns, and slow, and you're immune to them for 1 second. And on top of that, you know, well, that scales a little bit more if you were to have focus. We play with 50 focus, so it only lasts about 2.5 seconds. It's not that much, but it's plenty. All right, it's enough for us to make some crazy move. And on the trip, we're gonna play without the stabilize because I'm gonna show you guys how the way that the combo works. So the way that the rotation will work is you go into the fight and you do your full rotation, and then whenever you find the opening to do the damage, you're going to do a trip into a left click arcane eruption. The reason why we're not putting the last point into the trip is so we have the room to do a light attack into an arcane eruption, which will do an insane amount of damage and will look something like this. So trip, left click, arcane eruption. So you're gonna hit with all of that whenever the enemy's on the floor for an insane amount of damage. And remember, since we're gonna be utilizing auto, that means that the enemy is gonna be taking 20% increased damage on the floor. As a matter of fact, whenever I show you guys the blunderbuss build earlier, I showed you guys with the splitting grenades, and my apology, I told you guys that this build will be with the blast shot, which again, you can do it with the splitting grenades if you want to, but it's not necessary. Okay, this is how the build will look differently if you were to play without splitting grenades. There you go. I show you guys both the builds. All right, so their rotation for this build is, well, you're gonna be walking forward, you know, with both your weapons. Whenever the enemy is ready to fight, whenever you're ready to engage with the enemy, you're gonna try to hit them with that net shot. Then you're gonna roll forward into an arcane eruption, into a roll trip, basic attack arcane eruption. Then if you can hit them with a blast shot, roll basic attack shrine blast, basic attack net shot backwards, and if you have cannon blast, you can send it, right? So obviously there's not like, you do this rotation, obviously, you know, always. What did I say? You do this rotation always. Obviously, situation dictates. Okay, situation dictates. So it's not gonna be as smooth as that as always. You're going to be blocking some time, and if you can hit an enemy with a blast shot before you hit them with like the trip, that is also fine. Then you go in with this. You hit them with a trip, basic attack, and then you know, the finisher right there, which is the arcane eruption. And that, you know, that's pretty much how the rotation goes. Obviously, you know, just telling you guys how the rotation is, but actually not telling you guys how it works, it will make no sense. So what we're gonna do now, we're gonna jump into some clips, and if you guys have any question, remember that I stream on Twitch pretty much every single day, and you guys can also ask me any question on the comment section down below, and I'll be super happy to answer, you know, any takes that you guys have. Maybe you guys have a better suggestion to make the build stronger. I'm always open for suggestion if it means that, you know, it's gonna make the build stronger. And I'm not an egotistical person, you know, which I'm going to ignore your suggestion just because I simply think my build is better. Absolutely not, because at the end of the day, these builds is for you guys. These builds are for the communities and myself, so I want to put the best possible builds out there. So with my knowledge and the help of the community, we can come up with ideas and builds like this. So please do not hesitate on leaving a comment down below, and I'm super excited to see what potential the Flail will have in season 9, because man, it's just so many possibilities. Think about it. We can do Flail with Inferno if you want to go Fire Staff. We can do Flail and Vengeance, which is they're going to be reworking the Life Staff in season 9. We can do Flail and Warhammer, Flail and the new artifact Greysword that is coming, because the new artifact Greysword that is coming, the wave that it sends forward is arcane damage, meaning that if you go full arcane damage like I did, and you play with that Greysword, both the Flail and the sword will be doing arcane damage, which it will be ridiculous. Sword and shield and Flail. So many possibilities, chat. So many builds that we can do with this new augmented Flail that we're getting. It might be a little too powerful, so the Flail might be getting a nerf in the future. Obviously, we have to see how the community reacts, and you know how the Flail actually works once it gets buffed. Now with the 30% increase in healing that it's getting, oh boy, we're gonna get an insane amount of healing from Mending Vortex. Mending Vortex is so incredibly good, because once you drop, like, you know, below 30, 40, 50% health, you do one of these arcane vortex, and oh man, you get an insane amount of heal. Obviously I'm 100% heal. Listen, I don't want to make this any longer, so enjoy the clips, and if you have any question, either go to the stream or leave a comment down below on the comment section. Peace and cheers, and I love you guys. Bye bye. Oh my god. Brother, this build is crazy. Moves up precise, no moment is wasted. Nice. Cold in the fire, calm and calculated. Steps in the dark like they've already seen it. Pressure drops, trick, don't feel it. Built for the storm, sharp in the silence. Reads the field like it's guided by science. Pulse never shakes when the stakes get loud. Doesn't need noise, still draws the crowd. Built different, this is trick slaying. Edge like steel, caught through flame. Eyes locked in, hands in control. Carries the weight like it's part of the soul. No flash, no fear, no breaks. Moves through static that others can't take. Presence alone rewrites the room. Quiet as night, but it's like
through walls most won't face. Reads each second like a sacred space. No loud talk, no need to pretend. Doesn't chase moments, defines the end. Built different, this is trick slaying. Edge like steel, caught through flame. Eyes locked in, hands in control. Carries the weight like it's part of the soul. No flash, no fear, no breaks. Moves through static that others can't take. Presence alone rewrites the room. Quiet as night, but it's like boom. Every frame composed and steady. Time and sharp, always ready. Truth in the steps, no tricks in the frame. When the field shifts, trick remains. Climbs through walls most won't face. Reads each second like a sacred space. No loud talk, no need to pretend. Doesn't chase moments, defines the end. Built different, this is trick slaying. Edge like steel, caught through flame. Eyes locked in, hands in control. Carries the weight like it's part of the soul. No flash, no fear, no breaks. Moves through static that others can't take. Presence alone rewrites the room. Quiet as night, but it's like boom. Every frame composed and steady. Time and sharp, always ready. Truth in the steps, no tricks in the frame. When the field shifts, trick remains. Climbs through walls most won't face. Reads each second like a sacred space. No loud talk, no need to pretend. Doesn't chase moments, defines the end. Moves are precise, no moment is wasted. Cold in the fire, calm and calculated. Steps in the dark like they've already seen it. Pressure drops, trick, don't feel it. Built for the storm, sharp in the silence. Reads the field like it's guided by science. Pulse never shakes when the stakes get loud. Doesn't need noise, still draws the crowd. Built different, this is trick slaying. Edge like steel, caught through flame. Eyes locked in, hands in control. Carries the weight like it's part of the soul. No flash, no fear, no breaks. Moves through static that others can't take. Presence alone rewrites the room. Quiet as night, but it's like boom. Every frame composed and steady. Time and sharp, always ready. Truth in the steps, no tricks in the frame. When the field shifts, trick remains. Climbs through walls most won't face. Reads each second like a sacred space. No loud talk, no need to pretend. Doesn't chase moments, defines the end. Built different, this is trick slaying. Edge like steel, caught through flame. Eyes locked in, hands in control. Carries the weight like it's part of the soul. No flash, no fear, no breaks. Moves through static that others can't take. Presence alone rewrites the room. Quiet as night, but it's like boom. The ones who last don't need the light.
This guy
They
ruined the
shape
clip, bro.
the
God
path
damn.
in silent nights. When others fold, trick stands. Pace like clockwork, led by hands.
This guy ruined the clip, chat.
Led
Unbelievable.
by hands.